device guard signing portal. I've brought it up here. It's within the Windows Store for Business under Settings, Device Guard Signing. On this page, you'll notice that you can upload and sign catalog and policy files for use with Device Guard. But for the purposes of this demo, I will click on this download button to download the default code integrity policy. Now that download has begun, I will just pull up what gets downloaded, which is this default policy right here. Some things to point out about the policy is that by default, the policy is in audit mode. As we mentioned previously, it's very important to test and audit before turning a code integrity policy on in enforcement mode. And scrolling down, you can notice that within this very simple default policy, we are allowing certain third-party kernel drivers that need to run on Windows machines to run. For example, ELAM drivers here, the early launch anti-malware drivers, WCL sign drivers, and others. And also, at the very bottom here, you'll notice that the signers are created from the Device Guard signing portal. And for your enterprise, if you have your own signature that you would like to sign with, you can replace these items in the policy with the appropriate ones for your enterprise.
So to summarize then, for this particular policy, this is effectively setting a policy that allow Windows to run, allow third-party drivers to run that would be running on Windows. So this is like kernel mode drivers for your hardware. And then a couple of signers for your internal line of business apps. And that's the extent of it. Like nothing else would be able to run on the system.
Nothing else.
Fantastic. So that's great. So the other option you mentioned was a full scan. And the idea here is what? That you have systems that are already built out that kind of represent the kind of a golden system, the way the thing should be configured, and you start from that?
Right. The term golden system basically refers to a system that is what you would want all of the systems for that policy to look like.
Okay. So like a cash register, like you have a whole bunch of devices that are identical.
Exactly.
I see. Okay.
So you capture the scan of just one example of one of those registers. That way it covers the policy for all of them.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at how that one would work.
So to kick off the full scan, we've got some PowerShell commands here. Go ahead and start by setting a couple of variables. And this command here will kick off that scan of this quote-unquote golden system. And so this is going to start and actually take a long time, as every file on the box is being scanned, with the exception of a few folders that we've explicitly omitted here that are basically redundant files to be scanned. Also want to quickly point out that we've specified the level parameter to be signed version. Basically, this means that if a file is being allowed to run by code integrity, how code integrity will validate that is by checking which version of the application is installed and then comparing that with the minimum version that's specified in the policy.
And it's looking at the signature on that file as well, right? So
Correct.
It's the signed version. I see.
Comparing it to the signature on the file. As a fallback, we would compare to the hash of that file. And to save us some time here, we've actually pre-baked this policy so we don't have to wait for this to conclude. We've already pre-done the work. So let's take a look at what the full scan policy looks like. So you'll quickly notice that this is a lot longer than the other file that we looked at, the policy that we downloaded from the DGSP. Device Guard signing portal. Also note that this policy is also in audit mode and has many more rules.
So it basically looks like this kind of, in a sense, is a full manifest of everything that is on that box. Is that kind of how I should think of this particular option?
Yes, exactly.
So, Nate, I'm also curious. I know that, executables are not the only thing that can do a lot of damaging things on a system. You've got scripts like PowerShell and how does device guard work with those?
So device guard configurable code integrity actually adds an additional layer of security onto scripts as well. What this entails is that the Windows script host will only be able to run scripts that are signed, and also Microsoft installers, MSIs, must also be signed, and also PowerShell scripts can only run in full language mode if they're signed. Otherwise, the PowerShell commands will run in constrained language mode. Finally, .bat and .cmd scripts won't be restricted by configurable code integrity, as well as anything that runs under a third-party script host.
Okay, so if you want to control those third-party script hosts, either you need to make sure that those script hosts understand device guard policies, or you should block third-party script hosts. If you want to lock down a system.
Yes.
Okay. And now, I guess the obvious question that a lot of our viewers are probably thinking, as am I, we've got App Locker. App Locker's been around for ages, and now we have this configurable code integrity thing. How do the two fit together, and what's the difference between them?
Right, so there is some overlap in the functionalities of configurable, but as products, they have two different targets. You can see AppLocker as a way to control what users and groups are allowed to do on a device, versus the configurable code integrity policy, which sort of restricts what a device is allowed to do. And in that way, the configurable code integrity policy can add a tighter restriction on specific devices.
Thank you once again, Nate, and we'll be back in a few